This is Formium tenax from my garden, and I'm going to use this for my subject material, and that is roughly twice the width of my container, and I'm using a simple round container, and I'm just going to use it so that I can see its lovely shape. So that one goes in like that. Then I'm going to put in a couple of supporting pieces. And sometimes they don't quite curve in the direction that you want them to. So we need to just make them do what we want. So we'll have that one there. So I'm just positioning that so that it emphasises the shape of the first leaf that we put in. That looks better. So I have my subject material, which is twice the width of the container, and now I'm going to put in my object material, which is this beautiful hydrangea flower from the garden. Look at the colours on the leaves, which really pick up the colours in this leaf here. Now this one is roughly half the height of my subject material. You don't have to measure these with a ruler, but they do need to be roughly half the height, just visually. That goes in front of the subject, stick it hard straight down into the pin holder, and then tilt it forwards. Oh, we have wildlife. There we go. Tilt it forwards at an angle of 45 degrees. And I've positioned it so that these leaves frame the flower beautifully. Now, sometimes I would put in a third material, but because these leaves are so beautiful, I'm going to leave it at that. And that is the first design that we learn when we start to study Ohara Ikebana. That is a simple rising form, and that looks beautiful on any table anywhere in the house. Now this is a different design. This is a slightly more advanced form of Hana Isho, and this one is called a one row design, and I'm doing it as a one row just facing forwards. And I'm going to start off by using these rather delightful hosta flowers from the garden as my subject. Now the length of the subject is not as fixed as it was in the first design that I did, but it tends to look right if it's about 2/3-ish of the width of the overall container. So in Ikebana we very rarely leave the materials straight upright. Usually we put a slant on them, and that's because it looks more natural. So I'm just pinning the stem ends onto my Kenzan. I was so pleased that these came into flower at the right time so I could use them. It's a very traditional Japanese material to use. Now this one looks towards and slightly backwards from my subject. This one is called the secondary, and it can be anywhere from 2/3 to the same length as the subject. And for my object, I'm going to use some of these absolutely gorgeous daylilies from the garden. Aren't they beautiful? I've no idea what the variety is because they were in the garden when I actually bought the house. And this needs to be roughly half the length of the subject. This is my object, as I said. So that comes forward, down at an angle, and it's looking up towards the subject. You can see those two are talking to each other. Now, I'm going to put in another one to support that. If I put it like that, we get a lovely profile view of that beautiful lily. And then I'm going to put this one in here. Okay, now the next material that I'm going to put in is some foliage. And I've got some beautiful fern fronds from the garden, and also some rather delightful little hosta leaves, which are actually from the same hosta that I cut these flowers. And I've chosen ones that haven't been chewed too much, that the slugs haven't been too busy on, although I see that one's got a little hole in it there. But really, when we use materials in Ikebana, it actually doesn't matter so much if a slug has been busy on them, because that's natural. And as long as the hole looks attractive, it really doesn't matter. Now, if somebody's trodden on it, that doesn't look good, so we wouldn't use that. But after all, what we're looking at representing is a sort of idealised version of nature, I suppose. So, in nature, the slugs do have a little chobble at things from time to time. I'm going to use 5 materials altogether, because we would always use, that looks nice that way, we would always use an odd number, never 4, because that's considered to be unlucky. And often 5 in a large arrangement such as this does look good. And I'm just positioning these in a fairly naturalistic way, in the way that ferns would grow, because they come outwards from the centre like that. And now some hosta leaves. Ooh, with some extra bits of gardening. There we go. Just firmly positioning these on the pin holder. And this one doesn't want to do what I want it to do, but it will. There we go. We'll have a nice little one in here. Yes, that's very pretty. Now, my final material that I'm going to use is some Alchemilla mollis. Again, really pretty. It's lovely material to have in the garden to arrange with, but my word, when it decides it likes you, it can be a bit of a thug. And when you try and pull it out, its roots feel like they are attached to the underside of Australia. Come on. That doesn't want to go in. Sometimes it can be quite hard to actually position your materials on the Kenzan if the pins are a little bit too widely placed for the size of the stem. That looks nice. So it can be useful to cut your materials down. To just underneath a leaf, because then the stem is often just that little bit wider. So you can position them onto your pin holder. Now, last piece, where am I going to put this one? This one hasn't got any. Right, this is my linking material, so this one is in all of them. In the others, you'll see that what I've tended to do is use them in 2 rather than in all 3, but this one is my linking material. There, I think that looks very pretty, and I'm going to stop there.